Oscar goes to...
Before the Oscars can name a Best Picture, they decide on who they think is Best Director. Here's a look at this year's nominated helmsman.
An interesting mix of directors this year, some really seasoned veterans and some first-timers. One of the veterans that we've seen here before is Stephen Daldry. He's nominated for The Reader.
Where did you get this?
Borrowed it from someone at school.
Well, you should be ashamed.
Guy's only made 3 films. He's been nominated each time. Certainly considered a long shot for The Reader, a movie not as many people have seen, but, between Billy Elliot and The Hours, you kind of have to say the Academy likes him. He's never won, but he does seem to sort of have that kind of classic touch to his direction that really gets the Academy voters interested.
Hope your mother was happy.
She enjoyed me very much.
I'm not as old as I look.
I thought so.
One of the other directors who's made a ton of really strong movies, has never been nominated before and has at least an outside shot here, is David Fincher. Of course, directed The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, really a passion project for him. This is a very sort of technically savvy movie. Fincher takes a lot of pride in the details and coloring, justifiably getting a lot of recognition for that. And I don't think it's his year. Obviously, this is a Slumdog year, and I think that's going to inhibit a lot of directors' chances. But when you look at what Fincher has done before, it's really surprising to see that he's never been nominated. Seven, Fight Club, Zodiac.
I just want to check if you had an unsolved firearm-related homicide on Christmas and maybe one on July 4th.
So Fincher's one of these directors who, on the one hand, you can say, well, it's an honor just to be nominated because he's been out with so many great movies in the past and has never been nominated. At the same time, what you sort of would hope is there would be a cumulative effect and they would say, well, you know what? Here's a director who has done so many interesting things and it would be nice to see him finally get recognized. This is his first time out. Don't think it's going to happen this time, though there's always a shot. May have to wait till next time.
He's gonna see that you walk from faith and divine inspiration alone. All right.
Jamal Malik, you're absolutely right.
One director who had one of the more novel and ambitious careers around and is the front runner, perhaps the prohibitive one, at this year's Oscars is Danny Boyle. This is a guy who burst on the scene in the mid-90s with a very sort of unconventional genre hybrid called Shallow Grave, followed it up a year or two later with Trainspotting, and really has done nothing but reinvent himself with almost each picture. I mean, he did 28 Days Later, he did Millions, which was a little bit more youth-oriented, and he's finally here with Slumdog, a movie that a lot of people thought wasn't enough to get him over the top. Here we are at the end of the season, looking at him as probably the winner. I mean, he's won the DGA award, he's won the Golden Globe. I mean, he's just coming in on such a kind of trail of momentum.
It feels great.
Director who's kind of worked outside the system, much in the manner of Coen Brothers, is Gus Van Sant. Drugstore Cowboy, My Own Private Idaho, these very sort of 90s indie pictures, that have a lot of sort of cult cachet and critical cachet. Never really been recognized by the Academy until 1998 when he was nominated and in fact won for Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, I know. It really gets in the way of my yoga.
If homosexuals are allowed their civil rights, then so would prostitutes or thieves or anyone else.
Milk, tour de force, a kind of biopic, very powerful story about one person, kind of a smaller scale movie than what sometimes gets nominated. And, I think the feeling is that, Van Sant, you have to recognize him again for what he did with Milk. Probably not his year because he's running up against Slumdog. I think any other year there's a lot of goodwill to say, here's a guy who, was last won for Good Will Hunting 10 years ago. Maybe it's his turn again.
Frost is just not in your intellectual class, sir. You're going to be able to dictate.
A director who has really kind of had a very commercial career, though that hasn't really stopped him from winning Oscars, as Ron Howard. He's nominated this year for Frost Nixon, kind of a very intimate drama, not like some other Howard-type movies like Apollo 13 that have a real sort of sweep to them.
And don't you think your fear is a small price to pay?
2001, he had A Beautiful Mind. His direction was pretty much lauded from the beginning. He went on to win. So Howard's a guy who has been here before and can win. Frost Nixon, I think, unfortunately for him, is seen as more of a character-driven movie. Frank Langella, of course, nominated for Best Actor.
And I shall be your fiercest adversary.
I don't think Howard is getting his due as a director, but certainly good for him to be here. And I think, depending on what kind of direction his career continues to take, whether he takes more gigs like this or he does more commercial films, we might very well see Ron Howard come back.
The hunger in my belly is still there, John.